Good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning for me. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to run through Emerald's P6-Calculator tool. I'm Nicole Jardin. I'm the founder and CEO of Emerald, and I'm joining today from Calgary. Now, let's touch on why we built P6-Calculator. So in our work with multiple clients, what we found was that P6 didn't do everything that they wanted, or some of the things they needed to do in P6 were kind of tedious or laborious. So because we have had programmers on our team since our inception 28 years ago, we thought, there's got to be a better way to do certain things in P6. So some of the common struggles that we were facing with our clients and things that they were struggling with. If you've got no sound, double check your settings on your side. Make sure that your headset is working. I think others are hearing me, so hopefully it's just on your side. Should be a setting, should be, sometimes I have to check my headset, which one I'm pointing to, so take a look at that. Worst case on the recording, you'll hopefully get the audio. So some of the common struggles that we find when we're using P6. Well, of course, it depends on your particulars, but do you have data that you're not getting into P6 because you're worried it's going to be too much work to maintain? Now, that would give you more consistency in what you're trying to do. So for example, if you're trying to get costs in there or resources, so those are things you should try and have in P6, but sometimes people don't because they think it's going to be too much work to take care of it. That's where integration could be interesting. And of course, as soon as you open up the data that you're dealing with in P6, some automations could be interesting. So that's where Calculator can be a really great tool. So we've done a lot of integrations to work management systems or asset management systems like Maximo, like SAP. When you integrate to those types of tools, JD, Oracle, Financials, Oracle Fusion, we've done many of them. You might want to automate some things. So for example, foreign exchange rate might be something that's interesting. Depending on where you are, you might run projects in multiple currencies, and you'd like to have it so you could run it in the project currency as well as your ledger currency or your accounting currency. So those types of things are things that people struggle with in P6. How am I going to get this data in? How am I going to use it? How will I keep it simple to take care of this system? Okay. So for example, we have clients that put work orders from asset management systems in, like Maximo, or there's many others. But if you keep putting work orders in, the database is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So archiving automatically would be something that we've done with Calculator. Okay, so you don't have to keep thinking, okay, I've got to get some of this old data out of the system. So this sort of ability to make the administration easier is something that P6-Calculator brings to the table. And it makes it more flexible in terms of how you build out your projects. So as I mentioned, instead of just doing dates with logic, CPM scheduling, you can start to address better resource management. You can start to address better cost management, which are things that not everyone does in P6 because they're worried about the workload that might bring to the table. And as I mentioned, bringing data from other systems, this is a key thing that can broaden out your capabilities in P6. So let me ask a quick question here to the audience, and if you'd like, go ahead and answer it. So are you integrated to other systems? Okay, so lots of clients do integrate for various reasons. Obviously, it minimizes data entry, and it makes it so that you've got more data in one place. So that's something that Emerald does a lot of. So if you're looking at integration, definitely reach out, because we do a lot of that. And Calculator is a tool that we put on top of it quite often, okay, for a variety of different automations. And I'm going to show you some examples as we work through. Um, and just another quick question. So I mentioned that not everyone uses resources, not everyone uses resources and costs, and it's usually because of concerns about how much work it is. Now that's the ideal desire, right? You're trying to use all the three different facets of the project management triangle, but not everyone gets there, okay? Just depending on their particulars, okay? So that's the thing you want to strive for. So if you want to go ahead and answer those, I can show the results of who did answer. But that's what you're driving towards. You're driving towards that triangle, so you're managing all those three aspects. Now, people get worried about updating, streamlining the updating. Okay, so that's another thing. We've done a variety of things with Calculator in making updating easier. Okay, so you've got some automations that you can do that go beyond what P6 does out of the box. Okay, so P6-Calculator is one of, I think, our most interesting tools. It's not always the easiest to sell because you've got to look at what I'm going to show you today and just think of it as food for thought. And think of it, okay, well, they did these things in the webinar, but we have these things that we'd like to do. Does it seem like it's doable? Okay, so this is definitely a food for thought kind of webinar to get you to think about the things that you can do. Now, a big part of what I'm going to show you today, and these are just going to be a few of the things Calculator does, okay? I've got other webinars that if you're interested in, I can point you to different things that we've done already with Calculator. The key is extending the team reach with the data that you got in P6, because ultimately this is a communication tool. We're trying to get the right people at the right place at the right time for your project. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. And if the team can't see the data, then you're missing a communication point, a very important communication point, especially self-serve. So more and more of our clients are putting reporting engines on top of their P6 data. Most of our clients use our P6 reporter tool to do that, but it allows you to quite easily get that data into things like Power BI or Tableau or Domo or Click. There's so many different reporting engines out there. So ultimately, the key is to communicate and let people know where they've got to be and when. So there's huge benefits to Calculator. We save hundreds and hundreds of hours of time for our clients each year, if not more. So that's really the key here, is to look at some of the things that your team does a lot that's repetitive, maybe tedious, very time consuming, and see if you can automate it. That's really what it is. Now with automation, you get more consistency usually, right? Because you're programming something. So usually the human error is taken out of the equation, or not even human errors. Sometimes you just don't have time to get some of the things done that you need to, okay? So that's really the point of Calculator. So I'm going to jump in and show it to you in a second, but let me give you a quick concept of how it works. So what we do is we identify something that you want automated. So what is the calculation that we're looking for? Now, some of the calculations we have out of the box are roll downs and roll ups. So a roll down would be if you put a field at the project level, you want it to automatically push down to, let's say, the WBS, the activity, the resources, expenses steps. So it does an automatic roll down. Now that can be super handy, so you don't have to retype the data, and the data sometimes needs to be at the different layers for various reports, filters, etc. So that's an out-of-the-box automated, very simple one that we use a lot. And a roll-up. So if you've ever used expenses and steps, you know those fields don't automatically go onto the activity. And things that you put like a user-defined field at the resource level doesn't automatically go to the activity. So we've automated that. It's what we call a roll-up. And those fields go all the way up to the project level if you want. Okay, so that's just an automation of data, a data entry point. They can be massively time-saving. So you set those up, and then the automation takes place. And I'm going to show you some of them live in the software. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and jump in, and I'm going to show you a few examples today. As I mentioned, there are more examples that we could put in, and we've done more than what I'm going to show you today, just for the sake of time. Now, just before we jump in, is Primavera useful in Germany? Is a quick question I've got there. Oh, absolutely. So the thing with P6 is pretty much the standard tool across the world for large projects and large programs, so corporate programs. So it's definitely used in Germany. Obviously that's not a country that's super close to where I live, but I'm sure it's being used on all major projects in Germany. So yes, it's used everywhere. So definitely worth exploring. Okay, so let me give you some examples, some live examples of some features of Calculator. Okay, there's many more. So let me explain what I'm showing you in P6. So you should be seeing my P6 client. Now everything I'm showing you works in P6 web as well. So let me give an example. So I have multiple projects in this example, and the projects are could be construction. In this example, they're drilling projects, but they could be a turnaround project where you're doing mega work in a short window of time. So what I have here is I have multiple projects, and I want them organized so they're very easy for me to understand what's happening. So they're organized by the major equipment that I'm using on to execute the project. So in a drilling situation, the main equipment is the rig, the drilling rig that's going to make the well. So in this example, I've got the data organized by the rig. And then, excuse me, by the geography. So in this case, Calgary, Edmonton, BC. So I've decided this is how I want to see the projects. Now then I've got the projects more or less by date, the date that I expect to do them. So chronologically by equipment and geography. Now, that works today, but I might change the list, the order of the priorities of these projects. Okay, so I've got C1, 2, 3, 4, 5 being done in that order. But we might meet with our management team and they say, oh, no, we got to rearrange the order of these. Well, I don't want to have to keep rearranging the order of this list, okay, because that would be a lot of work. So I want it to be done automatically. So we have a code. So if any of you are familiar with P6, you know we've got codes, and codes are our bread and butter in P6. They really make the system super powerful. So what we did is we automated this code, the order of it, to happen automatically. So two things that we're using are the rig, which is a resource. So I'm going to show you that in a second. And also the chronology. Okay, so I'm going to change the chronology. So what I'm saying here is, as a team, we've decided we're going to rearrange the order of these wells. So this well is going to go first. So 2 is going to go before 1, and 3 is going to go before 1. Okay, so I'm just using simple to fill in field. In this case, it's a date, but it could be a priority. Okay, so I'm going to rearrange the order of that. Okay, so I'm going to save it, and P6-Calculator is going to watch. So it's a utility that's monitoring, that might be a better word, certain things that I'm doing. And in this case, I'm monitoring this field. So it's watching and it's going to redo this order for me automatically. Now, while it's doing that, I'm going to also change the rig. So I'm going to say, instead of just using one rig for all of these wells, I'm actually going to introduce a second rig, because that way I'm going to be able to do 2 projects at once. So I'm going to open a few projects here, and I'm going to reassign the rig. Okay, so I think you actually can see the order of that code already changed. So let me just go in and show you that. No, actually, just a sec. It might take another second. Let me just refresh that list, and then we'll just see if it's done. Yeah, it's done. Okay, so it already changed the order of this. So this was 1, 2, and 3. Now it's rearranged it to 2, 3, and 1. Now it did it automatically as part of what P6-Calculators were looking for, and it's looking at this to order the project. Now, that's one example. Now, and this example is at the project level. Now we can do the same thing in the WBS or in the activity codes, okay? So this, again, this is food for thought. But if ever you've worked on a turnaround where you might have thousands of valves being worked on, and you don't want the first valve you're working on to be at the top of the list and the second valve you're working on to be way on the bottom, just because the equipment numbers are usually what you're using to sort. Okay, so this would just make that so much easier for you. So it takes away some frustration. So right now I have just one rig, and I'll just close this for a sec. So right now I have all these projects. So projects C, 1, 2, 3, all being done by rig 1, all of them. Now we might say, no, we're going to rearrange that. We're going to give some of the work to a new rig. So I can actually highlight all these activities, and I'm going to change the rig. Now, if any of you have used P6, and you often will use the same idea in an activity code or in a user-defined field, okay? So I'm going to automatically, so this is another thing we've got P6-Calculator doing. It's looking at the main resource, and based on that resource, it's creating an activity code. And that activity code is getting assigned automatically. Okay, so this one by itself can save you tons of time, because you're going to use activity codes to group, sort, filter, and that's much easier to do than using a resource assignment. Okay, so this is another one. I'm going to do 2 calculator functions in one. So I'm just going to take these, and I'm going to switch them from rig 1 to rig 2. Okay, so this is something that I can do quite easily in P6. So it's a swap function. So I find this rig 1, which is this one, and I switch it for rig 2. So if you guys do a lot of resourcing, you may be familiar with how to swap these. So I'm just going to reassign it, and it's going to switch those. That's base functionality. That's nothing programmed there. Okay, so it's switched this to rig 2. So hopefully you can see that. Now in a minute, these are going to change as well. So I'm just going to save that, and I'm going to refresh. And it might take a minute here for those to get switched. So we'll just wait for a second here, and refresh it is all I need to do, just to get the screen to get updated with the change that Calculator is going to make. And there you go. It just switched these 2 automatically for me. Now the benefit of that is huge, okay, for various reporting, reporting at the activity level on a code is much easier than reporting at the resource. Now, a minute ago, I had all of the work assigned to rig 1, which is this orange rig. Now I've assigned some of the work to rig 2. And another thing that this tool is doing, and I'll explain it in a bit more depth in a minute, it's also redoing the logic automatically. Okay, so we've got a utility redoing the logic automatically as well, which brought some of these activities to be allowed to be done in parallel. Now, let me close the loop on the code. So a minute ago, I had rig 1, then I had Calgary, Edmonton, BC. Now this window at the project level is automatically adjusting itself based on the structure that we've asked it to. So it's, let's just refresh this. So it's looking at the different rigs is the first level of the code. It's looking at the scenario, the iteration, location, and date. And it's coming up using all those functions or different fields to create this consolidated code automatically. Okay, so it switched this automatically. So this was rig 1 only here a minute ago. Now it's rearranged them all. Okay, so that if you've used P6 a lot, you're going to know that some of these things you need to do manually. You need to use more than one field, and it is potentially quite a bit of work to do that sort of thing. Okay, so we've automated that. So that's really what I'm trying to impress upon you. Doing all this can be automated, so it can save you a lot of work. Now, if you've worked in the drilling sort of sector, you know that things change a lot. Okay, so if one rig is taking way too long on a well, you might want to rearrange the rig that's going to go to the next well because you've got a priority of how you want to do things. So there's quite a lot of dynamic changing going on. Construction as well. When you're working in a large building and you think you're going to work on area 1 first, and then for some reason you can't get in there, maybe there's a delay or there's a change order holding you up, and you need to rearrange the areas. You don't want to have to change all the logic. It's a lot of time and it's easy to make mistakes. Okay, so you can automate a lot of that. Okay, so let me show you another concept. Okay, so we auto-resourced that. Okay, so we already did the resourcing, so that's good. Let me just show you a little bit more on the auto logic. Okay, so let me scroll up and let me try and explain the logic sequence that we've got here. Okay, so we have multiple projects open. So I think it's about 5 projects right now at once. So let me kind of give you the idea here. So we have project 2, 3, 1. That's the order that I just switched them on the front screen. Now, based on what's going on in the field, we might say, oh no, we got to rearrange that priority. Okay, so you can see right now that the drilling work is going, so the construction, it's called construction in this example. We've got the construction of C02 going next. See, there's a logic tie to C03, going to C01, etc. Okay, so it took the priority that I put here in with this date, and it used that to order the projects automatically. Now, I might say, no, we're actually going to do project 5 first. So that one is going to come back into, so this is, you could look at this as like a priority. It doesn't have to be a date. Okay, that's what I want you to understand. So I'm going to do 5 and then I'm going to do 4. So I'm going to change that priority. Okay, now that could happen for so many reasons. You know, things do change on the job sites. So I'm going to switch it from 2, 3, 1, 4, 5 to 5, 4, 2, 3, 1. Okay, so I'm telling the computer I want this order to be changed. So I do that and I save it. And then I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to refresh this. And it might take a minute because it's got to do a lot of things now. So it's going to rearrange the order and it's going to change the logic for me automatically. Okay, so we'll just give it a second here because it is quite a few functions that it's going to perform for us. Okay, so what I'm looking for is for this order to start to change because that code is my code that has the sequence of the work. Okay, so it's going to take a minute. Just be patient. Now, one of the things we do a lot of is we use the concept of templating. So you can see here that we've got a standardized naming convention, numbering convention, standardized codes for the order of things. So usually in this kind of work, we have to get some authorizations to spend the money. So that's called an AFE usually as an acronym. Then we actually do the work. Okay, so we do the drilling, we do the commissioning, we get the well in service. So this is an in-service date. So these are different phases of the work. Okay, so just give it a second. As I mentioned, it's doing quite a few things here, so it could take a minute. Okay, here we go. So it's rearranged the order of the work. So it's doing well 5, then well 4, well 2, well 3, well 1. Now, not only did it do that, but it also rearranged the logic. Okay, so you can see the logic has changed. Now, the only trick here is I have to reschedule it to actually get it to recognize those logic ties. So now, there you go. This has moved over. But I did not have to go in and redo all this logic, which you would not want to watch me do it. It probably would have taken me 10, 15 minutes. So this is huge time-saving potential with this utility that we've built. Now, when we sell Calculator, we always sell some consulting because this particular way we've got it for this example may not match exactly how you want to do it. But the idea is the concept is there. So we have a field that's setting the order. And from that field, we can control the logic that's taking place. We can control fields that come and go. Okay, so in drilling, we mobilize once. We drill usually many wells if it's what's called a pad situation. So we have got multiple wells at one geographical location. So even this mobilizing is getting switched from project to project. So it's only needed on the first project. And you might have a demobilizing on the last project, okay, depending on your scenario. So hopefully this gave you an idea. Maybe it's a bit hard because it's magic. It's sort of magic that's taking place, good magic, to do a lot of the work for you automatically based on a very simple change that I did, okay? So in this example, I switched this date. Now this is a target date. It's not the date that P6 ultimately calculates. So this could be a priority. It could have been a priority of 1 to 100. We could have used that as well. So that could have been the same controlling feature that we could have used, okay? So then it's done its thing, and I can keep refining this scenario. And I might put a few of these wells onto rig 2. I might introduce a third rig. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways that you can use this, but it saves so much data entry, so much manual work. And then, of course, the code is what's controlling the way the order looks. So the order's always being kept chronological, which is fantastic because, again, if you're producing a Gantt, you don't want people to have to be scrolling through 10, 20 pages of Gantt chart to see what they're working on. Okay, let me touch on another concept that we use a lot with our clients. And that's this sort of flagging here. Okay, so let me go to a layout that's got the flagging. So we did that. Awesome. So we'll go on to flagging. Okay, so let's talk about your projects. I'm sure you have something similar. So in these drilling projects, we have the certain activities in the template, as I was mentioning. So some of the key dates that management is going to care about will be these in-service dates. They're going to be very heavily focused on when is the drilling taking place. That's a key thing. And they're going to be interested in the in-service date. So when we're actually going to produce, it could be gas, could be oil, could be electricity, it could be the plant back in production. Okay, so it's basically back online is really the idea. So in-service date is the one I'm going to look at. So let's look at this in-service date. I'm going to look at the auto flagging. Let's look at the auto date rollup and auto flagging. We'll look at both of them together. Okay, so let's first look at the construction finish as a key one. So what we're doing here is I filtered. So I've got the same project that I was just looking at. I've just filtered on the activities that are in the stage of drilling, which can be a WBS as well in my example. So it's filtering just a subset of activities. And that if you're newer to P6, you hopefully you know about codes because codes are the lifeline of P6, making it much, much easier to work with. So in this example, I've got these construction activities and I want to know when they're finished. Now I've got the finish there. The construction finish is there. So that's great. So I've got that. That's a good one. But I want it to be easily accessible at the project level. Okay, so I don't want people to have to open every project to go find this date. So this is something we have as a date roll up. And it's rolling up automatically to a field here at the project level. So C01 is 23rd of March, C02 is 16th of January. So it's taking the date that it found inside of here and it's rolling it up to this project level. I'm going to just refresh that. Okay, so it's taking it, yeah, and automatically that makes more sense because we rearrange the order. That's better. So it's refreshing it and updating it onto the top screen, okay, to the project level. Now, the benefit of that is very, very big. It might not seem like much, but if I can just take a look at the project information, not open all the projects to do my reporting, it can be very, very time saving. Again, it could also be pushed out to Power BI or Tableau, etc., and you can do your reporting off of that. Now, another thing that happens a lot is we have promise dates, dates that we've put out to management, maybe the board of directors, etc., for commitment dates. And that's what I'm going to show you here. So we've got an example of a budget date that we promised to be in service. So for this well to be finished, we promised a certain date. And then We have different scenarios, maybe that we've got that we're comparing against, and we've got dates promised there. So what we've got here is a tool that's looking at the dates that we've promised, and we're showing the variance, okay, automatically. Now the variance is positive is good, negative is bad. So negative in this case with the date means we're late, would be a later than expected. And we've got a little visual symbol, and also, of course, the actual value. So these are coming from the details inside of the activities. So I'm going to switch to another layout so you can see that. Okay, so the auto flagging. Okay, so we all have things like this that we're monitoring. So in this example, this is the in-service date that P6 is currently calculating based on all the predecessors or the work coming before. Then we have our two dates that we promised, okay? Now you might say, well, I do that in a baseline, which is fine, but we've got lots of clients who show them as their own activity because they want to see them, okay, as their own, and then we can do a comparison. So that's what we're doing here. So what we're saying here is right now the in-service date is quite a bit behind these two. So it's showing that I'm 108 days behind the scenario 1 plan, and I'm 185 days behind the budgeted plan. And I'm behind, so it's showing with red stop signs. Okay. Now in this example, I'm behind the scenario 1, but I'm way ahead of the budget. Okay. So it's got a 72 days late on one and 107 days ahead on the other. Okay. So this is automatically taking place, being recalculated. And as it's being recalculated, it's summarizing it, if you will, and putting it at the project level, okay? So now, again, I can see real quick which ones are doing well and which ones are not doing well. I can see them very quickly. I can report on them very quickly, okay? So that's very, very key for a variety of things, okay? Now, I'm using projects here to show the data. This data could be at the WBS. It could be at the activity as you see there. Okay, so the key is it's doing it automatically. Now, I can show you, should I change a date? Yeah, maybe what I'll do is I'll change one of the dates and then you'll get the idea of how this is happening automatically. So why don't I just go to an activity that comes before this in-service date. So I can use the Go To button to go to the commissioning. Now that activity is 2 days. Now let's go to the construction as well, because I think this will make a bit more sense. Now I might say this construction was meant to be 24 days. However, we know for whatever reason, it's going to be longer. Okay, so let me make that, whoops, that's a bit too much. I put 400 days. Let's make it 60 days. Okay, and let's make the commissioning a little longer too, just so you get the idea. Okay, so these are, of course, going longer, so this is going to go longer. Now I need to just reschedule this for that, those sequences to take place. Okay, so you can see that there. Now, what I'm expecting is these to change, okay? So I've got 108, 185. I'm gonna just refresh this. So it's gonna go in back and double check and compare them. Okay, so just take a second. So my filter just ran and it removed those activities off the screen. Okay, there we go. So now it's revisited those and they're worse, of course, because I made this later. Okay, so these took place automatically. And then I'll just refresh this screen. So these 108 and 185, they're updated automatically. Okay. Okay, so again, the benefit can be massive here for these sort of automations, these different flaggings, so that you can see data much more readily. You can report on it much more readily. So you can have a management report that's just looking at this, okay? You don't have to give them all the details of all the activities. Okay, so that's another scenario that I wanted to show you. We've got lots. We've got so many different little utilities that we've built over the years because we've been using Calculator for at least 15 years, I would say. Now, we built it for our clients, but we had so many clients we were using it with, we decided to make it a utility that we could sell and deploy more readily because we use it a lot. Okay, so that gave you another example. Let me wrap up with one more scenario that you might have something similar that you need. Um, Auto calendaring. Okay, so let's look at that. So we've got clients who have a bunch of specialty calendars for a variety of things. So I'm going to use two common examples we bump into. So when your project's in the middle of a certain wildlife area, you might have certain times of the year that you're not allowed to do certain work. Okay. So you might have, I've bumped into many. One of the ones that I did in New Mexico, they had a specialty owl or bird that would migrate in October. So they weren't allowed to do any work that would disrupt the owl. So we had to make a special wildlife calendar. Let me just see, where is it? Here we go. Here's a wildlife calendar. Here's a weather calendar. Okay, so in Canada and cold climates, we have times of the year where big equipment is not allowed to go on the roads. It's called a road ban. So you could mark that off in a calendar. So in this example, I blocked off quite a few months just so you could see the idea. So I said, with wildlife concerns, we're not allowed to work in October. We're not allowed to work in November, December. So I made it pretty extreme as an example. So what we can do here is we can have the scheduler say, yes, we have a wildlife concern and we want to use the wildlife calendar. So let me explain that a little bit better. So I'll go into my activities and I'll just open my layout that shows the calendar. And then again, just to give you another idea of how this works, how it can work. It could be different in your case. We've done a lot of different calendar type of functions. So what in our template, when we built the template, we tagged the projects where, or sorry, not the projects, the activities where a wildlife restriction might actually take place. Okay. So they would be the construction ones in this example. So you can see in here, this is project two. Project two has construction. I'm just trying to see if I've got any in the right window. This one here. Okay, so this one here is in December, January. I've got that there. So if I say I've got a wildlife restriction, these are going to slide out. They're not allowed to be done in December, January, November, October. Okay. So this one actually will be impacted. So that's project 5. So instead of going in here and starting to change all the calendars, the idea here is I just say that, yes, I have a wildlife concern and I save that. Okay, so 1 click, or 2 clicks maybe, and I save that and I refresh it and it's going to go into the projects. I'll just do all of them just so you can get the idea of it, but some of them won't actually move. Okay, so I'm going to do a fill down. So I'm going to say all of these have wildlife concerns. And then I save that, I refresh it. And then over here, it's going to start to change all the calendars. Okay, so these are going to switch from site to the wildlife calendar. There you go. Okay, so it's doing it automatically. All of these are changed automatically. And then, of course, you reschedule, and you should see the impact of this. It should move out, which it was moving out. There you go. They've moved out. Okay. Now, again, it's a very simple example, but if you've ever had to deal with whether there's wildlife and making sure you didn't miss it, or weather bands, etc., this can go a long way. Okay, so another one that we've done some calendar specialty work on is railroads. So railroads, often if you're in a live railroad line, you have to get on, do some of your work, get off, let any trains through, and get back on. Okay, so the calendars can be very complicated. So we've done a lot of interesting calendar work with railroad clients as well. Okay, so that's some food for thought, more food for thought. Okay, so I showed you that. Now I think I might have time to show one more idea. So I'm just going to show you a few of the different ideas we've done. And they're going to be in some of the previous webinars, okay? So particularly with the calculator webinars, they are all different because we've got different utilities we've built, okay? So I think I have time to show you one more. So we've got auto archiving, which I mentioned. We've got auto resource rollups. We've got loop detection, auto scheduling, automatic counters, automatic foreign exchange rates. We've got a lot of different ones that we could discuss. But for the sake of time, I'm going to do one more. And I'll show you auto counting, because that's another one that a lot of our clients use. So in these projects we have work orders. And we're counting how many work orders we've got in the project. Now, we might count how many work orders are finished, how many were started this week. We can count basically anything, okay? But the idea is just to give you the idea of counting. So let me open up this project. And I will go ahead and do a work order. Okay, accounting one, that should be a good one. Yeah, okay. So it's counting the work orders. Now in this example, the work orders are a user-defined field, but they could be a code as well. Okay, so it could be many different ways. So just for simplicity, I'm going to change two of these. Okay, so you see these two are the same. I'm just going to change these two. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 3, 5. Okay, so I'm going to save that. I'm going to run it. And what it's going to do, calculator's going to do, it's going to go in here and count these. And it's going to put them at this, into this user-defined field. So this is a running list, and it's going to change this counter. Okay, so again, it might take a minute. Let's just get it going. And we'll just be patient. It's hard during a webinar because you got to wait. When you're using it in real life, you just let it do its thing, and then you go look at it, whenever you need to, and off you go. Okay, so it should update these. Again, it'll just take a second. And then you can see the concept here. We use this concept for a lot of things. So we can use it for resources. So which resources are coming up to be used in the next week, if you've got a weekly plan that you're putting together, and so on. It's my mistake. I think I need to turn this on. Sorry, let me hit the go button. There we go. So we can have it do it automatically, or we could have it actually be invoked manually. So we have both philosophies, and it depends on your particulars, whether you just want it to run or whether you want your schedulers to control when it goes. Okay, so I think that's what I should have done. Okay, sorry. Come on. Oh, there it goes. That's what we want to see. So it found that there's another one and it updated the list and off you go. Okay. And it also updates the last time that I ran it. All right. So that you can see that information. So in this case, you know that it's stale because I haven't run it for quite a while. Okay. So this gives you a good way of looking at a bunch of data. Okay. That's really what Calculator does. It makes your data more usable, makes it more simplified for the team. It saves a lot of time. So if you've ever had to rework logic for a sequence of work because you used it, you're rearranging the order, you're working a building or a turnaround, etc. You know it can be very time consuming. So this, hopefully you saw some things that you know can take quite a bit of time. Okay, don't see any questions yet. If you do, throw them in the question area and I will try and tackle them. I'm going to move back to the slide deck to close up. And I can jump back into P6 if need be. Okay. Okay, good. So hopefully you saw some different ideas and let me touch on some of the benefits and feedback that we've received from clients. So hopefully you saw that some of the things that you've probably tackled in P6 can be tackled easier, more efficiently, especially if you can explain it, we can program it. Um, so I showed you automatic prioritization, switching the logic and switching coding to make reporting much, much easier. Um, all done by the calculator. So that all that stuff that I showed you would have taken me at least half an hour, if not more. And that's just a small set of projects. So that's really the key. It's to save you time, save you frustration, make it more efficient, make things more visible so that you can report on them. Okay, so those flags that I showed you, we do a lot of that in with Calculator. So the flagging looks at important things, puts them onto the project level so that we can report out much, much quicker. Okay, so that's a big one. We use that a lot. Okay. Now, because the point is to, of course, get the data into the right people's hands and make sure it's accurate. Okay, so now that also can affect safety. So we do have a lot of interesting reporting using Calculator to count, let's say, different man hours, different crews, splitting out the crew to on-site, off-site, certain geographical areas of your site. So we do these roll-ups and then we create reports off of them and it's doing it automatically. So it helps with safety reporting. And we all have safety reporting that we do at various levels, okay? So we've got more than one client that use P6 data to help with that sort of reporting. Because of the date timeframes that we've got that go beyond a card swipe into the in and out of the job site, we're also looking at different areas, okay? So that's much harder, but knowing the workload based on activities in certain locations helps with that. So that's how we use that data for different reporting. Okay, so that gives you some food for thought. As I mentioned, we've got auto archiving, we've got auto loop detection, we've got auto scheduling. So we've got many clients that have scheduling running every single night because they've got integrations that bring in actual data. and then the scheduling runs automatically, and then a bunch of the utilities run automatically. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways that we've deployed Calculator, and the ultimate goal is to save you time, save you frustration, helps with accuracy, which of course makes your reporting stronger. Okay, so hopefully you saw a few things of interest, and this is just one of many tools that we have. So hopefully you're on our mailing list and you're getting invites to different webinars that we've got. Now, this is our calculator tool. I did mention that quite a few of our clients use our reporter tool that helps take this data and get it out to your standard corporate reporting system. So we've got that, and I think we've got a webinar on Thursday to show you reporter. So if you haven't signed up for that one could be interesting as well. But we've got lots of different tools. We definitely have the broadest P6 toolkit out in the market space. We've got updating tools. So we've got our turnaround updating tool, which uses barcoding, fastest way to update. We've got our CAPS tool, which is more of a tabular web grid. We've got Calculator, as you saw, our reporter, as I mentioned, our scrubber tool, which lets you clean up imports before you bring them in, XCRs or XMLs or Microsoft project files. So that's another really interesting one. And we've got, I think I've touched on most of them. Okay, so just reach out, go look at our webinar schedule. We've got our tools on our website, of course. And we've built them over the years because of working with clients. These are things that they needed. Okay, so we've used the things that we've learned, we build them into the tool, and everyone shares from each other's knowledge over the years. And that's how we've been able to get such a fantastic toolkit out there. Okay, I still don't see any questions. So either that means you maybe didn't quite understand what I showed you, but what I was showing you was based on some codes. You hit prioritizing and then auto logic and auto flagging of dates up to the project level so you can report on them easier, you can see them easier. That's what I showed you in this webinar. Now, if you do have more questions, certainly reach out. You've got my email there. If you're in the APAC region, we also, how can I join upcoming webinars? So we do have our webinars on our website, and I will just get you the link real quick. It's at the top of our website, but I will get you the link here and put it in the chat. So go take a look at that, and you'll see the different ones coming up in the next few weeks. If you don't see one that you're interested in, keep looking at our schedule. We don't do them all. We have so many tools. We don't do them all every single month, but definitely take a look. And if you're in the APAC region, I'll give you our regional manager, Donna's email as well. Okay, so you can reach out from those different ways as well. So thanks for joining us. I hope this brought some